This video is made possible by donations to the United States Lighthouse Society from people like you. Welcome to another U.S. Lighthouse Society virtual presentation. I'm Jeremy D'Entremont. I host the Society's podcast, Lighthearted. I see a lot of familiar names on the list, and I know a lot of you have come to just about all our events, our virtual events, and we really appreciate that. Great to have you back again. Most of the events like this we've done in the past year have had to do with the tours that the U.S. Lighthouse Society does all over the world. And again, today's event is very different. We'll be discussing lighthouses with overnight accommodations. We have 11 special guests or panelists today representing lighthouse properties in the US and 3 other countries. There are all kinds of situations involving accommodations at lighthouses. There are hotels, bed and breakfast inns, volunteer keeper programs, youth hostels, on and on. There are some that are totally unique, and we'll be talking about a bunch of different ones. The guests in this event represent a wide range of accommodation offerings. Of course, there are many more lighthouses around the world where you can stay overnight. And in terms of the properties represented today, we're just barely scratching the surface. In addition to the places we're talking about today, there are lighthouses where you can stay overnight in the UK, Ireland, Australia, Germany, France, Denmark, Finland, Italy, South Africa, and many, many other countries. There's a list of lighthouses with overnight accommodations on the U.S. Lighthouse Society website. And I'll post that link in the chat as soon as somebody else starts speaking here. I will post that. But also you can just go to uslhs.org, click on where it says Fun in the menu, and then you can select Lighthouse Accommodations. I also have a page on my own website, my New England Lighthouses website, which is newenglandlighthouses.net. If you go to the links section, you'll see a page for lighthouses with overnight accommodations around the world. I need to update it though, so hope to get to update that soon. At this point, I'm going to start introducing our guests or panelists. As I introduce each one, they'll have up to 5 minutes to tell us the basics about their properties. Some of them will be sharing their computer screens to show us photos or presentations. In a couple of cases, I'm going to show some things for them. Hopefully it'll go smoothly. I think it will. And let me just mention this event will be posted. Video of the event will be posted within a couple of days on the U.S. Lighthouse Society's YouTube channel and also on the U.S. Lighthouse Society website. And I want to ask everybody that you keep your mics muted. Presenters, you can keep your mics open, but if you're not presenting, you might want to mute it until you're presenting. That's probably a good idea to just unmute yourself when you're actually doing your presentation. And again, everybody, don't click on screen sharing unless you're presenting. Please don't do that. So to choose, before I say that, let me say when we finish the program, we'll open it up for questions when everybody does their introductions. It'll be easiest if we use the chat for questions. For anyone not familiar with chat and Zoom, just click on where it says chat. Chat box will come up and you can ask your questions via chat at the end of everybody's presentations. And you might want to make notes while people are speaking so you can ask questions. And the panelists, of course, can ask each other questions as well. To choose the order of the presentations today, I used a website that lets you randomize a list. So the order I'm going to introduce people in is completely random. So people have to stay on their toes to know when they're presenting today. So first on the agenda is Nick Korstad of the Bay Point Lighthouse in Michigan. Nick and I go way back, I'm not sure how many years now, to before he bought and restored Borden Flats Light in Massachusetts. And Nick has appeared on the podcast twice, including the episode that's online, that's just put online a few days ago that has to do with haunted lighthouses in Michigan. So I don't know if we have time to talk about that today, but I'm going to turn it over to Nick, and I need to share my screen to help Nick out. So I'm going to go into that as Nick start speaking here.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you, Jeremy, for helping me out. We've got some old computer equipment out here, so it's kind of challenging, but we'll make it work. But I'm Nick with the Big Bay Point Lighthouse Bed and Breakfast up here in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And we have a 5-room inn, and we started out with 7. We've got down to 5 larger rooms, and we're just trying to make for a very nice experience. And as you can tell, I do like clocks. So of course, my clock is off time. But what Jeremy's showing you here is the outside of the lighthouse. We sit up on a 60-foot cliff. Our guests are welcome to climb the tower, and we are still an active private aid for the U.S. Coast Guard. And we are one of the few lighthouses in the country that still offers a DCB 36 rotating beacon. So kind of a flash from the past to say. We started doing a couple winter rentals, but we mainly focus spring through fall. And as Jeremy goes through the pictures, we just renovated the rooms again last winter. We brought our original 3rd order lens back to the property. So guests are welcome to see that. We haven't decided whether or not we're going to put it back up in the tower. It's one of the future things when we get the roof and everything done on the building. So, but this is one of our standard guest rooms. We have 2 large keeper rooms that are downstairs. And this is one of our normal size rooms. Off to the side, I think in the next photo, it shows that we do have seating areas in all our rooms for our guests so that you can feel safe. I know with the pandemic going on, the guests don't, want to meet up in common areas. So I also just recently acquired the Point. So we own all the land around the lighthouse, including Big Bay Point. So that can stay as a nature preserve, and all the nature trails and everything will stay. So that was very important to us that it didn't get developed and turned into homes. And this shot right here, I just did the other day. We had a large 80-foot spruce tree that was taken over the whole side of the lighthouse. And we got it taken down. It took 3 years to get a company out. And they took us up in the bucket truck, and I couldn't resist snatching the shot. But if you look out on the horizon, you can see most of our beach, when we have a beach, is just solid sandstone. And if you're a geologist, this is a great area to come. We have lots of rocks and just lots to look at. But most of our guests come out here to relax, get away from everything. We are out of society, so don't expect to get the best cell service and the best internet out here, but you will get the best experience for a remote light station.
Okay,
I think Jeremy got me right through all the pictures. So well, I'm not sure how much time everyone has, so I will definitely take questions at the end, but I want to make sure we can get through every person. But our website, bigbaylighthouse.com, has all the pictures, and as well as you can contact me and make reservations through the site as well.
Mm-hmm. That brings up a point I just want to mention. When I post the video on YouTube and on the US LHS website, we'll post a list of links to all these properties along with the video. So that'll be an easy way for you all to access that. So thank you, Nick. I think that was the end of your presentation for now, but we'll probably have some questions for you later. So next
I see
up,
all the people on the list.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, there's so many people. I just want to make sure everyone doesn't fall asleep or something if we start talking too much.
Well, I don't think there's any danger of that. There's a lot of great subjects we're talking about today. So next up is Brian Tefft, director of the Rose Island Lighthouse in Newport, Rhode Island. It's a place that's very special to me. I've visited there many times, going back to the early 90s, and I've stayed overnight a couple of times. It's a really, really beautiful lighthouse in a fantastic location. So I see Brian's already going into screen sharing, and take it away, Brian.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it. My name is Brian Tefft. I'm the executive director of the Rose Island Lighthouse and the Fort Hamilton Trust. We recently changed our name. We were the Rose Island Lighthouse Foundation, but since our lighthouse is built on historic U.S. Fort Hamilton, we decided to add that because we have a considerable amount of historic preservation going on at that site as well. So our website is www.roseisland.org. So just a little bit, hopefully you could all see that. I had hoped to go to full screen, but I can't seem to be able to do that from here. Oh, there it is right there. Okay, that's better. So Rose Island is an 18-acre property. It's entirely protected in perpetuity. The lighthouse actually sits on a 1.5-acre parcel that was declared surplus property after the lighthouse was decommissioned in 1970. The lighthouse was originally built in 1870, so it operated for 100 years until the U.S. Coast Guard in 1971 decided that they would decommission it. And at that point, they were interested in offering it to local communities, and it was another 15 years and lots of deterioration of the building till it was nearly slated for demolition, that it was acquired by the city of Newport at the behest of the newly formed Rhode Island Lighthouse Foundation, whose mission was to basically save the lighthouse from further disrepair. Again, I said the lighthouse was built in 1870. We are an active aid to navigation. So if you stay in our lighthouse, you are staying in a functional lighthouse. We're private aid. We have a 6th order Fresnel lens that sits 48 feet above Narragansett Bay in the East Passage, right at the lower end of the bay, where Newport is, out in about a mile from the city of Newport. We also consist of a wildlife refuge, so the entire island is owned. In addition to the lighthouse owned by the city, the Rhode Island Lighthouse Trust was able to purchase the rest of the property from private developers who had slated the property to build condos and a marina, just what we need more of in Newport. So fortunately, it is saved and is now preserved in perpetuity. One of the reasons why we were able to acquire the property is we received a large grant, almost $500,000 from the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, because of the characteristics of its habitat, which was considered endangered habitat for colony nesting wading birds, primarily great egrets, glossy ibis, black ground ant herons, and so on and so forth. So several birds do nest there. I mentioned Fort Hamilton. Fort Hamilton was built in 1798 after the U.S. Revolutionary War. Fort Hamilton is a first system U.S. fort. It was built as a way to protect Newport, which at that point in time was a fairly important area of historic importance to economy and also government at that time. Following the designation of Fort Hamilton, it wasn't until the 1870s and when the lighthouse was built. And then following that, Rhode Island itself was designated as a magazine following the Civil War in 1872 and became part of the Navy's torpedo station. So there is a whole lot of history going on at Rhode Island. Both the lighthouse and Fort Hamilton are on the National Register of Historical Places. A couple of photos here. Top left, of course, is the picture of the lighthouse from the water. In the front, there is a small brick building, which we call the Foghorn Room. Foghorn Room was added to the lighthouse in 1912. There was a single grounding in 1894, and in 1894, they built a manually operated fog bell. And it wasn't for another quite a few years in 1912 until they added the steam-generated foghorn that protected mariners in the fog. And one other thing I'd point out in that top left picture is the Newport Pell Bridge, which was built in 1968. And one of the reasons why the Coast Guard decided to decommission the lighthouse was the fact that the navigational aids that were needed at that time could be affixed to the bridge, and therefore rendering the lighthouse, quote, obsolete. I find it hard to believe that that was the case, but I'm sure they were trying to save money at the time as well. The lower left shows a photograph from 1942. It was a very active military station, and here you can see barracks of what they call Quonset huts here in the infield of the lighthouse property. To the left is the Fort Hamilton barracks, and to the right top, you can see a soldier standing on one of the bunkers that was there, housing electrical equipment and ammunition. To the top right, with the flowering dogwoods, is a picture of the Fort Hamilton barracks. Again, built in 1798 as I believe it was built as a magazine, a naval magazine. Since we sit a mile off of the city of Newport, the experimentation with undersea warfare, which began after the Civil War, they were storing explosives in this building. And in consultation with some of the Army historical experts, they say that although we call it a barracks, it was probably designed to be repurposed afterwards as a personnel place, but originally designed for storing explosives. One of the things they called it was the bomb-proof barracks, and part of the reason for that is the walls are about 4 feet thick. And that last photo on the bottom is just a photo of a great egret nesting. If you compare the habitat on the bottom left to the habitat on the bottom right, when the military was present, they essentially kept the entire island mowed. So it was barren of any trees or shrubs. And when it was abandoned in 1970, it began to revegetate, mostly with non-native vegetation. But the important thing is it provided habitat for these important species. Our accommodations, we have 5 rooms. We had 7. We still do have 7, but we have sort of shifted gears. The first floor of our lighthouse is a museum, which houses our displays and artifacts. And it is a shared space with day visitors who come in and look at the museum. Because of all the difficulties with commingling people during the pandemic, we decided to temporarily postpone the use of those downstairs room. And so we are renting basically 3 areas. The top floor of the lighthouse is a keeper's apartment, which has two large beds, a full kitchen, bath, shower, and in addition, access to the light tower. We do allow individuals to climb the light tower at any point in time. Bottom left is the room in the Foghorn building, which is quite romantic and right at water's edge. It's a pretty interesting room. And the bottom right shows the interior of one of the 9 rooms in the barracks of Fort Hamilton. So again, a pretty historic structure and certainly charming accommodations. So again, I'll wrap up here. I don't want to take too much time. Thank you for listening. And I would turn it over to the next speaker and would be willing to take any questions when the time comes.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Welcome.
So you can go ahead and exit screen sharing. It's just an amazing place. I spent a night in the Foghorn building, which was quite an experience. It was great. Loved it. So next up is Gigi Lirot of Whitehead Light Station in Maine. It's another place I have a lot of personal experience with. As Gigi will explain, there's an adult education program, programs that are given at the light station. I've stayed there several times when I've given programs on New England lighthouses. I've been there. It takes a lot to get me up for sunrise, but I've seen some incredible sunrises and sunsets there, and lots of great food and lots of great people. So I'm going to help out Gigi by going into screen sharing here, and I'm actually playing her presentation. So Gigi, you can.
Yeah, we've got a few photos to show there. But Whitehead was commissioned by Thomas Jefferson as the 7th U.S. lighthouse in 1803 and is also in the National Registry of Historic Places. It's located on 90-acre Whitehead Island that's at the mouth of Penobscot Bay. And we are a not-for-profit with a focus on educational programs for adults. The keeper's house has 7 bedrooms, each with an en-suite bathroom and 3 sitting rooms, a dining room, and a modern kitchen. This is an example of some of our programs on that slide right there. Knitting retreats, blues guitar, creative writing, plein air painting, lighthouse history with a really cool instructor that happens to be facilitating this program here. We've done mindfulness meditation. We have one coming this August, and craft beer and food pairing, and wine and food pairing. We're supposed to be on a separate line there, but they got together. On that slide before, there's a couple pictures. Just one of our knitting programs where we actually dyed yarn, and we're had it laid out on one of the rowing skiffs on the dock. And we often take folks out on boat rides to go see the seals, like in the bottom left photo. And on the bottom right photo is sunrise light from the Adirondack chairs right out front of the keeper's house. And so besides the programs that we have, we do offer the entire facility, the entire 7-bedroom, 7-bath house for rent as a vacation home. typically we prefer people to stay a full week because that's what gets you the best experience to really see what the place is like. It's a really special part of the Maine coast. And there's a photo in the bottom right of one of the bedrooms. The top right, we sometimes have a massage therapist come out for the guests, or if you're renting for your own vacation, the massage therapist can be arranged to be brought out to the island for massage. And that day it happened to be really nice, and we did that out on the rocks. We also offer al fresco dining. That table there is set up last year. The few programs we were able to do in 2021, we did a lot of outdoor dining and keeping everything kind of a little bit more COVID safe. And this is just a view, and our website there is whiteheadlightstation.org. That has more information. When we have our programs, we include everything, and from a full breakfast, snacks, lunch, cookies and things, everything fresh baked with local ingredients, as much as possible. A lot of local seafood, and every program we always do a lobster bake. If weather permitting, we do that outside on the rocks, and cooking the lobster outside, and eat outside, and continue into the night with around our fire pit to do some stargazing. And it's always one of people's favorite experiences being at Whitehead. And if you rent the entire facility, that you can do your own self-catering or hire a chef. But when renting, the place comes with a captain and use of the boat to bring you to and from the island, and on excursions around the local area. But a chef, as I mentioned, could be hired for the duration, or a yoga instructor or a massage therapist. So we've done that kind of thing for folks that have been renting as a vacation getaway. And we've got openings for several of our programs still for this year. Hoping to get a few more of the rooms filled up, but some of them are already full. Our craft beer program is already full, but we've added on the food and beer combo course, which is in July, and it'll include a lot of local beers from around the world, and food from the immediate area, farms and fisheries. And it's sure to be a really fun experience. Yeah, so I will, again, as the others, take questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gigi. I know it's hard to pack that in a few minutes because there's so much to offer there, but it's a really special place. Those lobster bakes on the rocks in the evening are just so great. Always love that. So thank you, Gigi. I'm sure people have some questions for you later. So next up is Jen Lewis of Point Cabrillo, and we discussed earlier, is it Cabrillo or Cabrillo? And I guess there's not a lot of agreement on that, but I'm going to go with Cabrillo. So Jen, I see you've already gone to screen sharing.
I sure
beautiful
have.
lighthouse. I visited there in 2015, but I didn't get to stay overnight. So you can go ahead, Jen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jeremy. It's so wonderful seeing all these beautiful pictures of all these lighthouses across the country and across the world. I'm so happy to be a part of this today. My name is Jen. I'm the Outreach and Fundraising Manager here at the Point Cabrillo Light Station in Northern California. We're about a 3 hours drive north of the San Francisco Bay Area in Mendocino County, between the towns of Fort Bragg and Mendocino. Our lighthouse was lit for the first time in June of 1909, and we're very lucky to still have our original Fresnel lens operating as an active aid to navigation. During normal non-COVID years, we do offer tours up there to visit the lens about once a month, March through October. So that's always a great time to plan a trip when we're actually offering tours up to the top of the lighthouse to stand next to that lens. Because she is a beauty. We've always had 3 light keepers living out here, hence the 3 gorgeous homes there. And now, I'm sorry, that's a fuzzy picture, but the far right one is now our museum, and the other 2 are our vacation rentals. So we have 4 different units on the property, but I'll talk about our 2 big houses first. This is our head keeper's house. It's a 4-bedroom, 5-bathroom house. It's not a bed and breakfast. You actually rent the whole house. So you have a kitchen, you've got the laundry facilities, and you got the whole house to yourself for as long as you rent it. And I do want to show my favorite spot of the lighthouse, or of the head keeper's house, because it is just absolutely gorgeous. This is our little front room, and I love to show this one off because it's just so dreamy to imagine, you know, sitting here with a cup of coffee in the morning before anyone gets to the park. And then as the sun goes down, watching the sunset behind the lighthouse as you watch that Fresnel lens flash across the horizon. So I did have to show off that little room because it is very special to me. It's a pretty awesome place to spend a night for sure. Let me see if I can get back into my actual slideshow here. So that is the head keeper's house. And then right next door is our second assistant light keeper's house. This one's just a little bit smaller. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's got its own kitchen, living and dining rooms as well. And of course, a really wonderful view of the lighthouse as well as laundry facilities. One of the things about this house is it actually is pet friendly. So if you do have the furry members of your family, you're absolutely welcome to bring them along. We do have one requirement, and that is that we want to meet them. So as you come to visit the lighthouse, we do have this silly little thing on Instagram called Pups at the Point. And so we just have all these wonderful pups and dogs and even some cats that have visited our lighthouse. So that is a requirement. We want to see pictures of your cute dogs when you come to visit us. And then one of the things about these houses is just the way that they were built originally back in 1909. All the bedrooms are on the top floor, so they do require a walk up the stairs. But we do have options for our differently abled visitors as well. We have 2 little cottages behind the houses, which were originally the outbuildings for the lightkeepers' residences. So the lightkeepers used these for storage and things, and now they've been converted into these small little cottage spaces. It's equipped with a queen bed, a mini fridge and a coffee maker, and it also has a fully accessible bathroom and shower, so anyone visiting in a wheelchair can have their own space where they're able to have everything that they need. One of the great things, of course, out here is that if you were to rent all 4 of our vacation rentals, you can actually sleep up to 18 people here on the property. So a lot of people actually have their weddings out on the bluff, just next to the lighthouse there, and then have the receptions behind the houses, and they can, have all the bridal party and families staying in those houses. Witnessed a lot of really wonderful weddings out here. It's a truly beautiful thing. And then, of course, one of the most special things about our property is once the sun goes down, you have this property to yourself. So if you rent one of the houses, the park is actually closed from sunset until sunrise. So you have free roaming of the grounds. And it truly is something special to see one of those original Fresnel lenses in operation at night out here. So that's definitely one of my favorite things, is just to be able to see, how gorgeous the beauty of that Fresnel lens is at night. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing right now. We're right between the towns of Fort Bragg and Mendocino, so you are pretty close by to any kind of amenities you would need. We've got grocery stores in both towns and really wonderful things to do and museums in both of them. And for you lighthouse nerds, which I assume, the 136 people in this room with me are also lighthouse nerds like myself, we're only an hour's drive away from our other Mendocino County lighthouse, which is the Point Arena Light. It's about an hour south of us, and it's an incredible place to visit. I believe it's tied for tallest on the West Coast. And so when you climb the stairs to the top of that one, it is something truly wonderful to see. We do have, all this information, of course, is available on our website, which is pointcabrillo.org. And we're also on, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and even TikTok, if any of you are on there. And we can also check out the full house tours on our website and on YouTube.
Thank you so much, Jen. It's a beautiful place, and I'm glad you mentioned Point Arena. Hopefully we'll do this again and maybe have somebody from there on, because they have overnight accommodations too.
Absolutely. I know I was sad to see that we didn't see any Point Arena wasn't joining us today, but hopefully in the future they're an awesome group of folks.
Definitely. So I just want to mention, people are asking questions in the chat, but please save your questions for the end. When everybody finishes, we'll take all the questions then. So I'm going to move on here, and next is Misty Anderson of Heceta Head Lighthouse, B&B in Oregon. I'd say it's one of the iconic lighthouses in the country, certainly one of the most famous ones on the West Coast. I visited there on my West Coast trip in 2015, didn't get to stay overnight. It's a beautiful place, and the accommodations are in two keepers' houses, I believe. So wait a minute, not two keep, that's Point Cabrillo, just one at Heceta Head. But Misty, you can take it away at this point.
Thank you. I tried to do my screen share. Is that working?
It is. Yeah, we're seeing.
Yay. Okay, so my name is Misty Anderson, and I am the general manager at Heceta Lighthouse Bed and Breakfast. We are part of the Heceta Head Light Station on the Central Oregon coast. Our B&B is in the keeper's duplex, so it would have been the assistant's duplex, and the keeper's home actually no longer stands. Our building and grounds are owned by the U.S. Forest Service, and we have a concessionaire's permit to run a business there. The lighthouse tower itself is managed by the Oregon State Parks, and the land surrounding us is state parks, national forest, a marine reserve, fish and wildlife. So we're very much out in nature. And that is one of the draws. We sit on a bluff above the Pacific Ocean with great views of trees and ocean and wildlife, sea lions, bald eagles, all the time.
Excuse me I'm sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second, Misty. We're seeing all your sort of thumbnails of your photos. Did you want to show any larger photos individually?
Screenshot. Okay, yeah. So on my end, I'm getting a slideshow. So let me see if I can go back and do this. I know we went through this one time and it didn't work, or it did work, and so I must have forgotten. Let's see, let's try this.
There you go.
Is this gonna work? Let's see.
Yeah, it's filling up the screen now. Yeah.
Okay. So is the picture moving?
It advanced to the next picture, yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. Okay, so now you'll see. Thank you for letting me know. So the history of our place is the light station is now 127 years old. And it was obviously, the keepers' homes were built for the light keepers. And there were two houses, but now there's only one, and that is where the B&B is. On the first floor of the bed and breakfast, we have an interpretive center where we collect archives and photos and artifacts. And along with that interpretive center is a lot of behind the scenes research where we are trying to learn about all of the keepers who live there and about their families and what life was like for that. So we have a historian who is a volunteer who is doing tons and tons of research, and we have a whole crew of volunteers who help with that research and give tours of the first floor. It used to be every day during the summer. Right now, with how things are, it's just the weekends, and that will go Memorial Weekend through Labor Day. But we can always offer a private tour by appointment as well. So on the second floor of the keeper's home is the where all the bedrooms and bathrooms are, and they are accessible only by stairs. So we have 6 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. and you'll see some of those pictures in there as well. You will also see that there is a full kitchen that's available for the guests, and we have kept that in a historic style as well. Most of the furniture in there is antiques of the era. We have a wraparound porch that looks out at the Pacific Ocean and the lighthouse tower. So after the lightkeepers lived there, during World War II, we had it as a military base. So there were actually a bunch of men and their dogs who lived there, and they were patrolling the coast looking for Japanese submarines. When the war was over, the Forest Service acquired the keeper's home. The state park got the lighthouse tower, and they didn't want to lose that house, so they rented it out to Lane Community College, where they could have classes and do, you know, seminars and different activities out there. And they were in charge of keeping the home nice. And that lasted until the mid 1990s. And that's when the Forest Service decided they wanted to have it to be a bed and breakfast to keep it open to the public. And part of that was having the interpretive center. And the bed and breakfast was meant to bring in revenue to restore the home and to keep this interpretive center running. And that's what it is today, is everyone who comes to visit and spends money there, that goes into keeping that home alive. So in 1995, the Forest Service put out an ad saying, we want to make this a bed and breakfast. Who wants to do that for us? And 500 people applied, and Carol and Mike Corrigan, they won the job. They were both professional chefs of Portland and owned their restaurants. And this was going to be their entire retirement job. So they came out and they started the bed and breakfast, and their daughter Michelle now owns it. So it's the 25th anniversary of the bed and breakfast this year. We offer weddings on site and other events, and we do all the catering for that. We have a gift shop in the old generator building, and I told you about the interpretive center. We offer a 7-course breakfast every morning, because when you have a family of chefs, they like to make food. So we serve a 7-course breakfast every morning. It's different every day. We actually have a cookbook called the Lighthouse Breakfast Cookbook that Michelle and her mother made together. Guests have access to the first floor when tours are done, and that has 2 parlors with fireplaces, a dining room, and that guest kitchen that they can use to make food for themselves. And they can sit on that wraparound porch. Also, like the other lighthouse, our guests have access to the lighthouse after dark. When the state park closes, it's only for our guests. So currently you can't go up into the tower, but you can go up to the viewing area and take a flashlight and see the sparkle of the Oregon coast moisture through the 8 beams of light. It's really magical. It's one of the highlights that all of our guests say. We're very involved with the community. We're considered, you know, quite a treasure out there. We offer 4 nights of Christmas parties where the house is completely decorated, and we get like 300 people each night come through there to see Santa and get free cookies, and it's all done by volunteers and sponsors. We also celebrate the Light Station birthday party on March 30th, and that's the day that the light was lit. And we do have a first order Fresnel lens in there. So that is something very special. So we started a nonprofit, I want to say like a 1.5 years ago, to help raise additional funds so we can get grants and donations. Because one of the things that was lost on the keeper's home is there was 2 rooms on the back of the house, and those were taken down at some point, and we would like to put the house back into its original footprint. So the nonprofit is Keepers of Heceta Head Light Station, KHHL, and they help raise funds for the restoration and building of those rooms, and also trying to make the house ADA accessible because now it's not. We are on the National Registry of Historic Places, and we haven't been able to alter the outside with a ramp to do that. So we are working on keeping the house historic, but making it accessible to all. So everything that we do there is out of love and passion for the history and the beauty of the home, and to keep it beautiful and alive and available for the public to come in and learn the history and see the beautiful light station. That's all I've got.
Thank you so much, Misty. Magical is a great word for that place. And all those pictures of food are making me really hungry.
Yeah, we do like our food and wine there.
Yeah, well, what a gorgeous winter shot there. So you can go ahead and exit share screen, Misty. Okay. And next up is Elena Hansteensen. My pronunciation, I know, is not very good at all, so I apologize for that. Elena's the owner of the Littleisland Lighthouse in Norway, and maybe she can give us the correct Norwegian pronunciation of the name of the island and lighthouse as well. I just interviewed Elena for the podcast recently. I should mention Misty, who just spoke, who was also on the podcast a while back. I just interviewed Elena. That episode will be released on June 6th. This is the only lighthouse we're talking about today that's in the Arctic Circle, and it looks really amazing, as you can see there. So Elena, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much. Do you all hear me now?
Yeah.
Good. Yes, so this is called Littleisland, which means Little Island Lighthouse. It's the lighthouse, as you can see it now, on this small island, and then it's called the small island or the little island just because the neighboring island is so much bigger. It was finished in 1912, and it worked all until 2009 from the tower. But then from 2009 on, we had a smaller light here on the side, all automated. The lighthouse is standing on an island with up north in Norway, where we have a view towards the Lofoten Islands in the south. And there has traditionally for hundreds of years been quite a lot of fishing activity here. This ocean view has also been, how shall I say, the port or the door to the rest of the world for the Norwegians up here. Yeah, we can also find traces from Stone Age on this island. So we know that people have been living here 6,000 years ago, actually. And this more special, I find it that I had the opportunity to move out here in 2006, 3 years after the lighthouse was demanned. And I've been living here on this lighthouse since. But I made it, or I bought it in order to make it available for people. And since I grew up in the tourism business with my father as being a chef, and I moved from hotel to hotel, and I worked with also as a tour guide for many years during my studies, I felt it was quite interesting to go back to this experience in my life at the lighthouse, and I wanted to really make it available for people. So here is one of the rooms that we have. We have 3 rooms, very, very tiny at the moment. We did a test in the market between 2014 and 16, and we realized that there was quite a lot of people coming, actually from all over the world, around 50% from Scandinavia and 50% from the rest of the world. And we now have 3 double rooms, and the plan is next year to have 4 double rooms plus a suite in the lighthouse tower itself that we are planning. We are starting the renovation of the lighthouse tower, and we hope that by the end of next year, guests can come and live in the tower. We are open all year round, so here you can also see how it is during winter time. So during winter time, we look for the northern lights. There are winter storms. During summertime, we look for the midnight sun. And there is always different things to watch and appreciate in the nature around. But of course, it can be quite rough, as you can see here during winter times. And we have a boat lift made in Florida, actually, that helps us a lot. Also, we produce our own electricity with solar panels and a generator, and we save rainwater. As the lighthouse is the only building on the island today. It takes around 15 minutes with a boat. We use ribboats from what I call the mainland and out here. And but of course, if it's too stormy, then people cannot come. But I go out with a boat to pick up people also when there is a gale, but not when there is a real storm. So food, we produce we serve food. We have a full board. I find that quite necessary since there is no other restaurants or cafes around. So for people not to leave too hungry, we have to serve some food. And our food is based on local and ingredients, a lot of fish. Here you see some crab. Everything here is a lot also about the outdoor, even if we like to make it as cozy as we can indoor. It's about really enjoying the nature. And as I could also hear from some other lighthouses, we are also giving yoga retreats, recreational stays, etc. And it works very well. Yeah, just the final photo here from the lighthouse tower itself, which now will turn into a suite. I will go back on this and show you before I leave another. Let me see, I will stop sharing this one. And if I can find, let me see here now. I wanted to show you a very, very short movie. Do you have that movie here? Well, hold on a second, I have it here. It will come in.
You need to go back to screen sharing, Elena.
Yeah, I will do that. I will go back to the screen sharing. I find it. Yeah, I found the movie and now I will go back to the screen sharing. Just a small little movie to show. It's just a couple of minutes, a little bit more live features. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Good.
On these winter shots, what are the average temperature lows?
At the island, -5. It can be at the lowest.
That's
because
Celsius.
it is, yeah, -5 Celsius.
Beautiful place, incredible footage.
Wow.
Yes, so that was all, I think.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for listening in.
Thank you so much, Elena. It's to say that place looks spectacular is an understatement. Please put me down for the room in the lighthouse tower when I come and visit.
With pleasure.
It's high up on my bucket list, believe me.
Thank you.
So next I want to introduce Jimmy Stewart and Carol Livingstone of the West Point Lighthouse in Prince Edward Island, Canada. And I've seen some of Atlantic Canada. I haven't had the privilege of getting to PEI next, and that's high on my bucket list too. And the lighthouse is certainly one of the best known lighthouses in Canada, and one of the few places where there's rooms in the actual lighthouse tower itself. So Carol and I go back a while. We communicated years ago, probably close to 20 years ago, and I was working on a lighthouse database, and she was very helpful. So let me turn it over to Jimmy and Carol. You can go ahead.
Okay, can you see me there?
Yeah, we see your presentation.
Great.
Yeah.
So Lighthouse Carol, as she's affectionately known here in Canada, she's pretty famous, and if you go to her home, it's basically a national archive for lighthouses for Canada and parts of the world for sure. So my name is Jimmy Stewart, and I currently manage the lighthouse for the West Point Development Corporation that owns a couple of properties, one being the West Point Lighthouse in a museum. And it's a wood structured lighthouse, 65 feet tall, tapered lighthouse. And I'll let Carol speak to why the lighthouse is black and white. So we have 13 rooms. There's 12 modern rooms, and then there's 2 rooms. One room was the lighthouse keepers, and the other room, often referred to as the honeymoon suite, it's actually in the tower of the lighthouse. And from our rooms, if people ever question whether we're close to the water or not, we give them a stone and allow them to throw it from their balcony and hit the water. I'll get Carol to speak to the museum part of the lighthouse. You'll see images of a parlor where the local innkeepers would tell ghost stories to the teenagers and send them home after dark scared to death. We have a lot of folklore and history, and Carol will speak to the lake as well.
Can you switch to presentation mode on your PowerPoint?
Are you missing it?
No, I can see it,
but
we could get full screen if you
Okay.
switch it. Sorry to interrupt.
This is the last slide. I'm scared I'll lose it since I'm pretty well through it anyway.
Well, we've only been seeing your first slide. So if you want to click down, maybe quickly show us the other ones. There you go.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah, that's the whole screen now. Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I introduced the lighthouse, the tapered lighthouse, black and white. Our inn with our 2 period rooms and the keeper's quarters and the tower, and then 12 modern rooms, and very close to the water. Carol will speak to the parlor and the light portion. Can you see the different slides now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
So we also own and operate the West Point Harborside Center. It's a restaurant and a banquet hall. This enterprise is owned and operated by the West Point Development Corporation, a nonprofit entity that is basically ran by managed by paid people, but operated, by a volunteer board, if you will. So the last slide I have here before I turn it over to Carol is, according to several national publications, the West Point Lighthouse is one of the most haunted places in the entire country. We have lots of, I say, folklore galore. Carol's actually witnessed what we've called the burning ship. We have local storytellers come in and talk about their firsthand experience actually seeing the sea serpent on more than one occasion. Flat-nosed George Curry was born exactly where we're sitting at the local fire hall. He rose to fame when he ended up in Utah running with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and the Hole in the Wall gang. There's been movies made about that group of bank robbers back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Carol's a direct descendant of Lighthouse Willie. He's been known to haunt the lighthouse a little bit, and she'll speak to that. And then there's the little girl in the window and the buried treasure. Oh, the Atkinson Cup. Carol loves to talk about the Atkinson Cup. It was donated by a woman who actually made her money the old-fashioned way. She went down to Boston for work, worked as a chambermaid, fell in love with the son of the merchant she was working for, and divorced him and become a bit of a philanthropist in this community. And this is for a boat regatta we host annually. So other notes, there was only 2 lighthouse keepers over the course of 98 years. Lighthouse Willie being one of them for 50 years and Benny for 48 years. We're adjacent to the West Point Harbor, a working fishing port where we fish North Atlantic lobster, scallops, surf clams, herring, mackerel, and that sort of thing. And sandwiched between the lighthouse property and the harbor itself, there's Cedar Dunes Provincial Park and Campground. We have shipwrecks and lots of stories about rum running and ferry trails. So there's a lot of history of folklore that goes along with our facility. One of which there was back in the 1700s, there was a woman, I can't remember her name. She was called the Pirate Queen of Canada. She used to hide out off of Newfoundland, which is north of us, and she would board French ships going in and out of the St. Lawrence River in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, and take their belongings. And we have a buried treasure that we believe she may have a hand in. So I'll give you over to Carol.
Hi, my name's Carol Livingstone, and most of the people around PEI call me Lighthouse Carol because I love the lighthouses. Helped get PEI Lighthouse Society going and participated in any number of lighthouse-related things. My great-grandfather was Lighthouse Willie, and he was the keeper for 50 years. And because of that, we're very fortunate that we have a lot of, in the museum, that we have a lot of artifacts and so on that were family ones. And when he retired after his 50 years, Benny McKisaac was a World War I veteran, and he took over, and he was the keeper until electricity was installed in 1964-5. You had to have 5 houses that were willing to take electricity. And in those days, not everybody wanted it. They weren't sure it was a good idea. But anyway, it's a lovely place. The people are friendly. They feel a real pride in the fact that we've kept our lighthouse. It's still active. I've never met flat-nosed George Curry, but apparently he's one of my not too distant cousins. So, you know, things start disappearing. Anyway, just joking. We really enjoy having people coming here, hearing their stories, going up to the top, going out on the deck. As Jimmy mentioned, looking over the strait to New Brunswick. The food's good in the restaurant. We used to have it as part of the main facility. but we now have it in a different location, and that leaves us able to have more rooms. Very glad to have the chance to meet up with you other folks. We've had people from the United States Lighthouse Society come. I've done tours with them here on the island. Really enjoy doing that. And so I can just say that really looking forward to seeing many of you folks. And it's so interesting to hear how you got your lighthouse and what you have done for it. Thanks now. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carol and Jimmy. It's another place that's near the top of my bucket list, and maybe I can make it there with the U.S. Lighthouse Society tour sometime. That would be a lot of fun. So we're going to move it along. Next up is Desiree Heveroh of East Brother Island Lighthouse in Richmond, California. Another great location, very pretty lighthouse. I'd say it's one of the prettiest lighthouse buildings anywhere. I've interviewed Desiree twice for the podcast, including an emergency edition. I'm not sure who dinged just now, but special emergency edition we just did. I'm going to run a PowerPoint presentation while Desiree speaks here. So I'm going to go into screen sharing, and you can start speaking anytime. Here it is. And here it is. Okay,
Right.
Desiree.
I'm Desiree. And this is East Brother Light Station. The rock was blasted the first week of March, 1873, and the light was lit the first week of March, 1874. On the island, we have the main Victorian that you saw, the fog signal building and the keeper's quarters. We're right in the middle of everything, really. San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley, San Rafael, Vallejo. We're central to everything. Next. And again, we've got the main building, the keeper's quarters, a cistern, redwood tank, the fog signal building, the gangway that leads down to the boathouse, and the hoist, which hoists the boat up, which is how you get on and off the island. Next.
Whoops, sorry. There we go.
So it is the oldest wood frame lighthouse still in operation in the United States. And it was automated in 1969, sort of the same time as we've been hearing other lighthouses talking about that. We are on the National Register of Historic Places, and we are a registered historic California landmark. Down in the lower left, you see during the Stenmark era, we still have that bell on this island, and you see a nice big party. The Stenmarks were here for 22 years as keepers, so a lot of pictures and history of their time. Go ahead, next. In 1979, the East Brother Light Station Incorporated nonprofit was founded, and the Coast Guard said, all right, well, you guys can, do what you like. We raised some money, we saved it, we brought it back to life. Go ahead, next. And the restoration took a year as well. Since 1980, we've run a bed and breakfast inn. 60% of the profits go to paying the keepers, 40% goes back into the lighthouse. And we have the bed and breakfast overnight. We have Saturday day use for 4 hours. We do special events like weddings, business retreats, etc. And we have a monthly wiki day. We call our volunteers wikis. You all know what that means. First time I probably don't have to explain that. Next. So this is our most popular room, the Marin Room. It is upstairs and has a full bathroom. However, you cannot take a shower here on our island unless you stay more than one night. We do not have plumbing from the mainland, and we catch all of our water from the rains. Next. And this is the San Francisco room, also located upstairs with lovely views of the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge and the Bay Bridge and San Francisco, downtown San Francisco and Fisherman's Wharf. This is West Brother Room, which is my favorite room. I really love the furnishings, and it's a very large room. Also has beautiful views of the sunset and West Brother Island, which is right next to us. We are on East Brother Island. This is the Two Sisters room, because just north of us, there's two little islands that were called the sisters. We are the brothers, and you can see those islands from this room. That bed is newly restored. No guests have slept in it yet, and it's stunning. This is Walter's quarters. This is in the fog signal building. It is outside of the main house. During the restoration, Walter Fanning came and kind of made a little quarters for himself and stayed on the island for the year of restoration. He kind of grew up here as a boy. His grandparents were light station keepers after the Stenmarks. And so this is a nice kind of little getaway, little private area for yourself. It's around all historic machinery, and you cannot hear the fog signal building when it's blowing from October to March from this room. Yes, that's correct, Nick. I'll be getting into that. We've got a parlor, the dining room, which is right behind me here. We've got a game room and a lovely little gift shop as well. And because you can't just go to a restaurant when you're out here on the island, we provide immediately upon arrival champagne and appetizers. And we have a 4-course gourmet dinner and a full breakfast. That all comes with your stay. There are also enhancing packages, especially popular when people want to pop the question. And if we have ambitious innkeepers, they grow a lot of the vegetables for a very fresh, organic, farm-to-table experience with your meals. All of our machinery is from the 1930s and still functioning today. Actually using the generator a lot these days. And we have a lot of challenges. Can you imagine getting a refrigerator out onto the island when it's on a small little and you have to personally climb that ladder that you see up there? There's me. But we've got some of the best rewards too. You can't beat our views. It's 360 water all the time, and we're in the Bay Area, so we have gorgeous weather 3 seasons out of the year. And the wildlife here, this doesn't even touch on it. I mean, I have babies around me constantly. There's life constantly brimming on this island. It's the soundtrack of my experience, and it's been like magic. But as Nick mentioned, we are having a cable. Our submarine cable failed on April 1st, so I have been living on the island with no power for 6 weeks. Everything is controlled by the power, the hoist for the boat. So getting on and off has to happen with power. Water pressure, so washing your hands, taking a shower, you know, all of that is affected. We are currently trying to save the light station. We have a GoFundMe, we have a Network for Good, we've got a YouTube channel, our Facebook has all of the information, and while donations are obviously what we need, I know that in this digital age, what we really need is we need people sharing our story. Share it on all of your social media platforms. If we could get this to go viral, we all know what that means. It takes care of itself. And this place is too special not to be able to open again for all of you who want to come and see it.
Okay. Is that it, Desiree? Yeah. All set for now?
That's pretty much it for now. I'll answer questions at the end.
Okay. I just hope your generator holds on. You have limited power out there, so hopefully you can hang on a while
Very
longer.
limited. My my generator, my poor generator from the 1930s has failed 4 times in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
One example of how to having to deal with that the starter gave out. So I had a relay of people from the mainland go to an antique machinist who had a starter for that kind of generator from the 1930s, and brought it to the marina, where the harbor master rowed it out to me, and I dropped a bucket down from the dock. He put this 30-pound starter in the bucket, and I had to pull it up so that I could reinstall it and get the generator running.
Wow. Well, you certainly go above and beyond in everything you do there, Desiree. And I want to second what you said about spreading the word. I know you do. I know you do. I've talked to you enough to know how much you love that place. And it's a very special place. I was there in 2015 for a visit also. So I'm going to move along here. And next up is Chad Kaiser of New Dungeness Lighthouse. And Squim, I always have to pause because it's spelled S-U-Q-U-I-M, but it is pronounced Squim, right, Chad? Yep, Squim, Washington. When I was there a couple of years ago, I saw the lighthouse distantly, way in the distance. I didn't have time to walk all the way out on that very long sand spit. The overnight situation at New Dungeness is a little different from pretty much the other ones we've talked about today, as Chad will explain. And Chad is also, as I mentioned earlier, one of the few certified lampists in the country. And it's a very special thing he does with that too. So I'm going to turn it over to Chad. Go ahead.
All right. I am the manager of the New Dungeness Light Station, which is out here in Washington State. This is a picture of the light station from one of our work parties. We have a keepers program at our lighthouse, and we've run a keepers program since 1994, when the U.S. Coast Guard personnel left the station. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we take care of this lighthouse exclusively. Our Keepers program is a quite popular program. The lighthouse is on the end of a 5.5 mile long sand spit, one of the longest sand spits in North America. And it's powered by a 2.5 mile long underwater cable. So I understand the issues that East Brother is having. It's always a concern of ours. And when we supply the station, we drive out at low tide. So we have keepers out there all year. And in the middle of winter, sometimes we're driving out there at 2:30 in the morning or 3:30 in the morning. This time of year, it's much more convenient. We just had a transfer this morning at 9 a.m. So that's much nicer. But we have a couple of trucks that we use to transfer keepers. When you stay out at the light station, you're out there for a week at a time. You have to bring all of your clothes and all of your food. With the occasional person hiking back to the base of the spit for a Starbucks coffee, you are out there for the week. We also have, as I said, we have a couple of trucks and we have 2 boats. This is our landing craft. Occasionally we use that to get supplies out to the light station. But while you're out at the light station, depending on your skill set, we have many different jobs that can be done. There's always something to paint, and here one of my board members is power washing our sidewalk. Painting is a constant thing, and we ended up having to replace this sign a couple of years ago. This is a set of our keepers raising the flag in the morning. We can have as few as 4 keepers and as many as 8 keepers for the week. And we have 3 separate rooms in the lighthouse, and you can either rent the entire building or just an individual room, depending on how big your group is. Polishing brass is also one of the tasks that we have our keepers perform. And we are fortunate because we are in the middle of a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service wildlife refuge. So although the lighthouse itself is still owned by the Coast Guard and we lease it from the Coast Guard, we're surrounded by the refuge. So just last week, we had a set of keepers that saw a group of gray whales, and the week before that, there was a group of orca. So there's a lot to see while you're out on the station. Another interesting thing is that the spit of land that the lighthouse is on is a very dynamic piece of land. That red line that you can see going across that image is where the beach was when the lighthouse was built in 1857. And since then, almost half a mile has been added to the end of the spit. Our oldest building on site is the lighthouse building here. It was built in 1857. One of the interesting things about our particular station is we have had someone on site every day since 1857, whether it's U.S. Lighthouse Service personnel, U.S. Coast Guard personnel, or now our keepers program. So we're pretty proud of that. Our lighthouse used to be about 40 feet taller than it is right now. The tower itself had some cracks in it in the 1920s, and it ended up being lowered to what you can see in the image here today. When you stay as a keeper out at the light station, you stay in this building. We jokingly call this our new building because it was built in 1903, 1904. And there are 3 or 4 rooms that we rent out in the building. This is what the kitchen looks like, and if you're sharing it with, if you're sharing your stay with other people, you end up sharing the kitchen facilities. As one of our bedrooms is the Blake bedroom on the main floor. Dining room. Here's our living room. Unfortunately, fortunately, it's been redesigned since this image was taken. And this is the tower room. It tends to be one of our most popular rooms. We call it the tower room because when you lay in bed, this is your view. You see the light spinning around every night. We have a website, newdungenesslighthouse.com. If you're interested in staying out at the light station, under the Keepers Program tab, there's an availability that you can look at. Our program is quite popular, but openings do become available occasionally. And that's about the end of my presentation.
Great, Chad. Thank you so much. Next time I get out, wow, what a view that is. Next time I get out there, I'm getting out to the lighthouse one way or another. I'm determined.
I'd be happy to get you out there. And this is a great image. We love this image. That's Mount Baker in the background, and it's actually 90 miles away. But in the wintertime, the air is so clear that you can get an image like this. So.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's a beautiful part of the world for sure. And Chad, you've been on the podcast a couple of times too. And one of the earliest episodes, you talked about the lighthouse, but I also had you talk about your work as a lampist, one of the real Fresnel lens experts in the country too, which maybe another time we can do as one of these presentations on lenses and have you as a guest in that.
I do wear a number of hats, whether it's consulting with lighthouses on the construction processes or conserving lenses or moving lenses. But today, obviously, we're talking about New Dungeness.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Chad. And we got 2 more people. And I want to thank Erik, Nissen, Johansen for being so patient because he's in Sweden and it's what time now? Like almost 11:30 in Sweden at this point, right? So thank you for staying up with us. We appreciate it, Erik. Erik is representing the Paternoster Lighthouse in Sweden. I recently devoted 2 podcast episodes to it, and it just looks so spectacular, as you're going to see. It's won some major awards for small hotels, and there's a lot I could talk about, but I'm going to let Erik talk about it. So go ahead, Erik.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been interesting watching. I haven't been falling asleep, so. I said we had a chat together with the different panelists before all the guests came on board, and it's really interesting to. I'm kind of new to this business. We have been running it for less than a year, but there are special challenges running something on a small lighthouse. Paternoster, a home on the horizon. We were 7 friends that got the opportunity to lease this island from the Swedish government. It's the branch of the government that takes care of the royal castle and the significant buildings in the country of Sweden. They are owning it, and they are leasing it out to somebody that could kind of keep it alive. And I think you can see in this shot that it's on the west coast of Sweden, and it's kind of the last island towards Denmark. And it's about 6 nautical miles from where you can park your car, and then you have to take a boat or find a helicopter to get out there. And we were, as I said, a group of friends that got the opportunity to sign the lease, and that was just before last summer. It felt a bit crazy because it was virus times, and the hotel business was really suffering. But we had the people that my colleagues that we are running the hotel have different skills. We had very experienced business people, and we had people that know how to deal with food and beverage and wine and sommeliers. And me and my wife run a company that are designing hotels and restaurants globally, and also promoting hotels and restaurants. I think we had a kind of a competent skill set. And it's a lighthouse from 1868. It was built. It's in cast iron. The island is only 200 meters by 150 meters. It's not so big, and it's mostly rocks. It was the first lighthouse in this. There was a little bit further south. It was a lighthouse that's only 5 years older, and that was built out of stone quarried from the actual island, and it took 2 years to build it. And it was very troublesome during the winter. So this lighthouse came with an innovative way of casting it in a factory in land, and then they mounted it in less than a week. You see the building with one lighting window. It's the lightkeeper's house, and it was 3 keepers with their families. And if the families altogether had more than 2 kids, the government had to provide them with school. So it was also a school on the island. So here you can see it in a more common weather, like this is a slight storm from 2008, I think. And the lighthouse was running until 1977, and then there was a fully mechanical lighthouse put 3 nautical miles south in a specific, actually a better location. And then the buildings were abandoned, and 2002 there was a discussion of taking, because it was rusting, and to actually lose it and take it into the ocean and let it rust. But it was a protest storm run by the newspaper of Gothenburg, and they managed to raise money to save it, and it was taken inland and with a big huge crane and restored. And 2008 it came back again, and then they restored the buildings and at the same time. So sorry. We are so we have renovated the hotel, and we don't want to call it a hotel. The idea for our business was that when they opened the lighthouse 1868, there was a big debate before. Everybody agreed that it's a perfect location for the lighthouse, but in the same sentence they said it's impossible to live there because it's so small, it's so far out, it's nothing grows there. But then they opened the lighthouse, and these 3 families with their kids and the school teacher came there and made actually a very good living. They were fishing, hunting for seals and seabirds, and had a very good life. So what we wanted to do, we wanted to open up the home of the lighthouse keepers, and we wanted to the product we wanted to give to the world was to learn to live on the terms and conditions of this island. So this is a shot from our dining hall and our living room. And the living room, we designed this wallpaper especially. It only exists in this room here. And it's made up of the cast iron construction and some cast details and the seaweed growing around the island. And this is our dining hall. We built the table in the room, and we bought this beautiful photo from an American artist called Christy Lee Rogers. She's a photographer taking picture of people underwater. So we wanted to keep this room in the last 1,000 years on these reefs, the Paternoster reefs. It's been the reefs has sunk about 1,000 ships. No, 700, more than 700 ships. The last one with the lethal exit was 1969. But we wanted to keep this dining hall as a homage to everybody that lost their lives. So we thought it was kind of accurate, with nice to put this piece of art piece that of people being photographed underwater. This is our little living room. It's only 9 bedrooms. And here we got, this is the where the lighthouse master had his office. And the office bench is now turned into the bar, and I got the key. So if you come, you can be nice to me. You have all his charts here, and we really wanted to mix modern art with pictures from people that actually live there. And last summer, after we opened, we had a lot of more guests than we expected. And a lot of people came, older people came and said, I used to live here when I was a kid. And then we asked them to look into their photo albums, and we got snapshots, and so they're kind of embedded all over. And there you have our little logo. This we have a special nice craft beer producer in Gothenburg that made a craft beer that's really goes well to shellfish, that we serve a lot to our guests. And here you see the full image of the beautiful picture. This is some of the produce that we catch just around. We got fresh mackerel there, and lobster when it's lobster season. Actually the best spot for lobster was we realized that was only 50 meters, which is very short, outside the living room window, so the guests can actually see if you catch something or not from land. And crabs and other crustaceans. Crabs we can catch all year round. And that's me with a mackerel mask on. And it's a very social product. We have a rule that our staff is eating with our guests, for example. So we don't want to we call it a home on the horizon. We also have some hot tubs that we pump salt water up. We have a desalination plant on the island. So we are actually drinking the seawater. So we are serving the water more proudly than the wine. We have really good wine though, but yeah, it's a little bit of the branding, and here you can kind of see how far out it is. And we have a few other buildings. The one to the left is the gunpowder house, where we have the little kind of chambre séparée for dinners and stuff. You can also see the cavitation there that was where they grew their vegetables. And the gunpowder house housed the gunpowder when they had cannons before the foghorns were invented. And then the building just left to the lighthouse is with the little tower on is the foghorn building. And then the white one in front of that is the food cellar. That's our wine cellar today. And then we have a little museum, and the bigger house behind the main building is the where we have bigger dinner parties with up to 50 people. So this is our guest room, kind of simple, but very luxurious beds, and that was an adventure to get them to the island. We don't have a very good port, and we bring our guests with either helicopter or rib boats. Sometimes we have to cancel nice bookings because of storms coming. I think I would like to talk to you guys about if you have any experience with storm watching, because that's what we want to kind of try to dive into. And this is our most popular room. It's not used very many days, but when it's still like this, it's a fantastic experience. We have a newlywed couple that rented this, and they have a picture of a seagull waking them up, landing on his feet in the morning. Here you can see the little bed. It's also in a nature reserve, Paternoster. It's called, this reefs are called Paternoster because it means, it's Latin for the Lord's Prayer. And it's gotten its name because the sailors, when they approached this dangerous reef, they prayed the Lord's Prayer to be safer. So that's also the name of the nature reserve. And it's great fishing around, and great scuba diving, and lots of shipwrecks and stuff like that. And we also, our guests are allowed up in the lighthouse. It is blinking today. It has more like a, it's on the list of the official lighthouses on the sea map. It's not so strong, and it's but we can take our guests up there. So we serve oysters and champagne, and we, as a welcome drink, and we also have yoga and massages up there, and we can also facilitate so people can sleep there. And you see the underneath you have like the office of the lighthouse housekeepers, and so you in the Scandinavia it's very bright in the summer, so so it's a nice place. I got a lot of good shots with my drone, so sometimes it looks like this after the rain. And it's been a fantastic since we opened. We were surprised in the beginning of the summer that so many people came out, and suddenly we got a lot of media attention also from globally about this new tiny nice hotel opening up on this small island. But that's kind of another story. These are we got a lot of articles. It suddenly kind of happened, and we got help from the Swedish tourist administration also. They used their PR agencies around the world and wanted to kind of chip in to make this destination. And we got a call from the Oscars this autumn, and they asked if we wanted to become a part of the gift bag that were given to all the nominees in the Oscars ceremony, which we have. This is the invitation for Anthony Hopkins that won Best Male Actor. Made small little boxes with a little brochure for him. And then also we won the biggest design competition for actually in the US for hotel design, the Gold Key Awards for the best interiors, hotel interiors last year. And the Telegraph in England was the newspaper was nice, so nice that they put us on the list of the 10 greatest hotel of the decade. So we got a lot of attention, and we also did a fantastic collaboration with the Gothenburg Film Festival, which is quite a large, it's one of the 4th largest film festival concerning audience in the world. And they had to do obviously totally digital this year. And they except from one ticket, and that was on our island, for one person alone for 7 days without any cell phone connection or without any phone or internet. And we had a competition to give out this one ticket, and we got 12,000 applyings from 46 different countries around the world. And we picked finally a woman from Sweden. She was a COVID nurse, and she started her letter saying that I'm really tired because I've been comforting dying people for the last half year, and my only way to comfort is to watch movies. So there she is in the rib boat, and you have the world press there with the CNN and BBC and New York Times, and Al Jazeera flew in to follow her out to the island. And she was watching movies in the lighthouse, and she was there alone for a week. Not totally alone. She was actually with Mirja, our managing director on the island. But they didn't speak for a week, and they had separate breakfasts and stuff. That was for safety reasons, all the different systems. Here we have her, and we got a lot of attention. I think we were on CNN 5 times. And since we opened the product, the lighthouse, we got more than 11 billion media imprints or media reach. And I've been working on promoting hotels that we have designed for many years, and this is kind of unprecedented. But it's ironically, it's during the time when nobody can travel. I think that was my last slide.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Erik. You know, it's just phenomenal. What a lot of great photos, and it's just a really special place. And I was lucky enough to interview you and also Lisa, who stayed for the film festival, and also Jonas Holmberg, who's the director of the film festival, in a 2-part podcast. Two episodes of the podcast a while back. So people can listen to that, and some of the other guests today have been on my podcast. If you go to the news blog on the USLHS site, go to news, N-E-W-S, news.uslhs.org, and you can do a search for Lighthearted, 2 words, Lighthearted, which is the name of the podcast. You can find all those episodes, and I think you'll want to check those out. So we got one more presenter, and it's gone a little longer than I planned on, but I hope you can stay for everybody can stay for the question and answer period in a few minutes. Last but not least is Jeff Gales, representing the Point No Point Light Station in Hansville, Washington. And as I mentioned earlier, I think most of you know, Jeff is also the director of the U.S. Lighthouse Society, executive director. I stayed at Point No Point a couple of years ago for, I think it was 5 days. Like I said before, it takes a lot to get me up for sunrise, but I think I was up for sunrise every day when I was there, and it was just incredible looking across the mountains and everything, just absolutely gorgeous. So Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Jeremy. So I think you're evil, because to have me follow that presentation from Erik, that lighthouse is such an amazing place. I know I've traveled quite a bit since working for the Society around the United States and all through Europe and even Asia. I have never seen an accommodation like that in my life. I went to various beds and breakfasts and self-catering, but that bed out there on the rocks, I mean, come on. Anyways, I hope you turn the webcams off when the honeymooners are out there. But okay.
Yeah, I can switch it on again, but I switch it off.
That's fine, no problem. Okay, so I'm actually, because a couple of people mentioned Point Arena, I'm going to go ahead and just say something about that, because it kind of tells my story a little bit. And behind me, by the way, is not Point No Point. It's Point Wilson, which is another lighthouse. But I got indoctrinated to lighthouse lodging very early on when I started working at the Point Arena Lighthouse. I was actually there for 3 years, and I lived there. My wife, Melissa, and I, yes? Oh, my wife Melissa and I decided we couldn't pass up that opportunity. Part of the job of running the museum was living out there. So they had 3 big houses. One of the houses, well, there's 4 houses. One of the houses we lived in, 3 other ones we rented. And I very soon realized the potential for income and to help support the cause of lighthouse preservation. It didn't take me very long to realize that's where we needed to put a lot of our attention immediately so we could raise the funds to do what we needed to do out there. And it was an amazing experience living out there. And it's something that for the U.S. Lighthouse Society, important as well, because it gives people access to these properties in a different way than they ever would have been able to before. So moving on. Oh, so and point, no, I'm sorry. Let me share my screen here. Hold on a second. Let's see, there's Point Arena. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Point Arena is an incredible location. It is actually not the tied for the tallest lighthouse on the West Coast. St. George Reef actually is the tallest lighthouse on the West Coast. Point Arena is claim to fame that it's the first reinforced steel poured concrete lighthouse in America, and it kind of resembles a smokestack, and that's because it was built by people who designed smokestacks. But it's a neat place. Location is unparalleled. Point Cabrillo is just as equally an amazing spot, and certainly you can hit both those lighthouses if you stay at Point Arena. Now Point Arena has more rentals available. They actually took the house that I lived in and they turned that into a vacation rental. And so there's more opportunities for people to stay out there. So it's a neat spot, and I recommend that anybody goes out there and checks it out. And again, you know, I'll just mention that the people who are running these lighthouses with vacation rentals, wherever they are in the world, whether they're nonprofits, whether they're private people, owners like Nick, you know, especially if they're private owners, they need to be congratulated because they don't have to open these up to the public. They're doing it because they love the history and they love the sharing of the stories. And honestly, from my experience, these vacation rentals are one of the best ways for lighthouses to support themselves, just by giving people around the country the ability to, or around the world, the ability to kind of pretend they're lighthouse keepers for a few days or a week or whatever. So let me see what I have here. Let me, why do I have this here? Okay, well, that's on there, pointing in a shot here. Let me close this. Here. Stop sharing. Okay. Let's see. So first I want to talk about what's behind me, Point Wilson. Let's see if I can actually pull this up. And I can't get Point Arena to go away. Here, okay, go away, Point Arena. Here we go. All right. Nope. Bear with me, everybody. All right, here we go. Okay. Hopefully I'm still with you. Did I just click? I think I just clicked out of the, no.
You're not in screen sharing.
All right, here we go. Sorry about that, guys. I'm having technical difficulties. All right, I'm just not going to screen share it because I'm having technical difficulties. The Point Wilson Lighthouse, it's actually a partnership. The Coast Guard contacted the U.S. Lighthouse Society and asked us if we could help this particular property. And then I got a hold of Chad Kaiser, and or he got a hold of me. One of us got a hold of each other. And we decided we're going to go ahead and partner and try to fix it up. And what we managed to do is, if you look at the lighthouse in the center, just to the right is a little ranch style house. We've actually opened that up as a vacation rental. And the duplex right there, we're in the process of restoring right now. And that one's going to be 2 possible rentals. Again, the idea is to get as much income as possible to support the restoration of the entire station, which it needs very badly. We have a great drone video of it, but because I'm kind of a Luddite here on the computer. I'm not able to show it to you, but that's
it's on YouTube, I believe, Jeff.
yeah,
right?
you can go to our website and see it and go to YouTube. And I don't want to take up too much time because I know we're all wanting to go ahead and ask questions. So the last property I wanted to mention is Point No Point Lighthouse. It's kind of a funny name, but there is another Point No Point Lighthouse in the country, which is in the Chesapeake Bay, not to be confused with the one in Puget Sound that we're at in Washington. By the way, Point Wilson also is in Washington. I have been very lucky in my life to have been able to not only live at Point Arena, but also have my office go to every day to a lighthouse at Point No Point, and then to have as a side project, just for the fun of it, building vacation rentals up at the lighthouse in Point Wilson in Puget Sound as well. So it's Point Wilson's not actually on Puget Sound. It's at the Strait of Juan de Fuca and where Admiralty Inlet meets. So that's not officially Puget Sound, but close. Point No Point, we moved there, our headquarters there in 2008. And initially we weren't planning on opening up a vacation rental there, but we were convinced by the county who we partner with on that particular property. And it's been such a great thing. I mean, I didn't want it at first, but I love it now. And we have 2 rentals out there. We have amazing people who come visit us, and it's just a great place to come visit. Puget Sound in general is a great place to come visit. Chad will agree with this, that it's a special place, Washington State, because there's a lot of vacation rentals at lighthouses here. I think there's 5 actually. There's Point Wilson, there's Chad's Lighthouse, New Dungeness, there's Point No Point, Browns Point, and there might be even 1 or 2 more I can't remember. But there's a few of them out here. So you can get a lot of lighthouse bang for your buck by coming to Puget Sound. But I don't want to take up too much more time. Everybody knows they can go to the Lighthouse Society website and check these things out, these lodging opportunities. Not only Point No Point and Point Wilson, the ones we manage, but all of them around the country. We also have international ones posted on our website that are available. And I encourage anybody, even if you're not traveling in groups, to go to these places and check them out, because I can't emphasize this enough. You can make donations and you can become members, but to actually stay at these lighthouses is really honestly the best way that you're going to be able to give them significant income in addition to having a fabulous time. So it's a win-win for everybody. So Jeremy?
Yeah, I just put the picture of the lighthouse up here so you can see.
Thank you. There's Point,
of course,
Point No Point.
Yeah, the accommodations are in the keeper's house, of course, which is a lot bigger than the lighthouse, but it's just such a beautiful, beautiful place.
It is. It's now Point No Point is tied as the shortest lighthouse on Puget Sound, so that's something.
Yeah.
And by the way, to give credit where credit is due, that lighthouse looks the way it does, primarily because of Chad Kaiser helped us with the restoration of the entire property way back in the late 2000s. So thank you, Chad.
Chad, as he said, wears many hats, and he wears them all very proudly and very well. So thank you, Chad, for all that you do. So at this point, we can open up for questions, and let me get my chat window open here. I know that some people are trying to ask questions as the presentations were going on, but I thought it'd be better if we finished them all first.
And Jeremy, I feel a little bit bad for Nick. He really only was on camera for about 3 minutes. Maybe you want to just see if he has a couple more things he wants to say about his property.
Well, I have a question, at least one question for Nick, if I get to ask any questions. Well, why don't I go ahead and I'll start the ball rolling here by asking a question. And actually, I'll direct this at Nick, but could also easily be directed at Jimmy and Carol with West Point, and also with Misty at Heceta Head. All of those properties, and probably some of the others, certainly have ghost stories attached to them. And Big Bay Point with Nick. And Nick, maybe you want to go first. We just talked about this the other day for the podcast about the ghost stories there. My question is, do you think that ghost stories like that that it's a good idea to publicize stories like that in your marketing, or do you think brings more people in or it scares more people away? Do you have an opinion on that, Nick?
You know, it honestly depends on the clientele you want to attract to your business. So sometimes the ghost people can be a little odd, but you know, my region up here is in the Midwest, and so we have a lot more people who are spiritual as far as like organized religion, and so they're not too fascinated or keen on the ghost experience. So you know, if you have like, you know, California people are a little bit more open-minded about stuff, so they might find it more exciting. So again, it just depends on where the inn is located.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. But you, of course, you get people from all over. But
yeah,
Jimmy and Carol, do you want to? I'm looking for you in my Brady Bunch screen here. There you are, right there. Yeah, I don't know if you have any response to that.
It's been my experience, a very small percentage of people don't enjoy that folklore and mystique that comes with the burning ship and the sea serpent and the ghost stories. What's your experience been, Carol?
I think most people are interested. And if they know before they come that there are sometimes unexplained things happening, then they know it's not a surprise to them.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of people who really enjoy the possibility that something unusual will happen while they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's never been anything harmful happen.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's pretty much in movies where the really violent, harmful stuff happens. Misty, do you want to respond to that? Heceta Head certainly has its ghost stories.
Yes, we definitely do. We actually don't promote the ghost stories. We don't need to because they're out there, and we're really well known for it. Many of the people do come wanting to have that experience, and we only have a few that when they find out get really scared. We like to tie it back into the history and say, you know, think of all the people who have lived here and all the things that have happened. There were families who, you know, had births and that they had deaths and they had celebrations. And even before the Lightkeepers were here, the Native Americans lived here. So there is so much history and energy, like it would be surprising that there wouldn't be anything going on here. So we just tie it back to the history. But I think majority of the people are attracted to that and want to know about it.
Yeah. You just made me think about our local lighthouse here, 10 minutes from my home here. I'm in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Portsmouth Harbor Lighthouse has some ghost stories too. It's featured on the Ghost Hunters TV show and other things. And when when I'm giving tours of the lighthouse and people ask about that, I usually say something like, whether you believe in any of that or not, the spirits of the keepers of the past are with us, you know, one way or another. They're very much here. We feel their presence every day. Whether they're ghosts or not is another question, but they're definitely there. So
I'd like to reiterate what Misty said, her comments about tying it into the history and the whole experience. Like that's just one small part of our experience, but very good point, Misty, about promoting you know, the historical parts of your community. I think it was an important comment.
Yeah, definitely. So some people are starting to ask questions. Sheila was asking, how do you set your prices for overnight stays, meals, et cetera? Of course, that's going to vary a lot from property to property, depending on whether it's on the mainland or on an island, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know if, Sheila, did you want to direct that anybody in particular or about setting prices? I don't know if somebody wants to jump in.
No, anybody. I mean, I know that they vary depending on whether you have to take a boat there. They look like the ones that had meals were very gourmet meals. It wasn't like they were throwing some bagels at people for breakfast or anything. But and then to follow that up, does anybody use Airbnb or VRBO or any of those, or is it all just direct booking?
That's a good question. I've stayed at those places where they throw bagels at you, by the way. But Desiree, I think you're raising your hand. Did you want to answer that?
Yeah, so people naturally would think we would set the prices based on our location, but the Bay Area is if anybody who knows knows how expensive it is to be out here, we don't want it to be prohibitive for people to be able to come. So we keep our prices in a range that is feasible for the public. We have one room where we keep it under 400 for when they're doing their search, with price ranges, just so that, you know, we don't make it so that only certain people can come. We want everyone here. And as far as advertising on like VRBO and stuff, no, we don't. We're word of mouth. We've been that way for 42 years, and we're always booked in the 90th percentile.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody else wants to say something about whether you use Airbnb or other booking systems, that type of thing.
I'll pop in. For us on our rentals, we've tried VRBO, Airbnb, and all of them. And what ends up happening is that you have to make reservations, and then that somebody books on Airbnb, for instance, you have to go back into the Airbnb calendar and update that one and update your calendar. And it's like you're doing like double, triple work. So for our organization, it hasn't been worth the extra work generated from keeping track of all the calendars to use Airbnb and those services. It's a good way to advertise, but I haven't found a way to make it work efficiently. So that's why we take reservations directly without going through this third parties.
Right. So to tag in on that, up here at Big Bay, what we do is I factor in the average wear and tear on all the rooms every year, and then the future projects that need to be done. And so I always try to make sure that we make enough revenue so that we're never going backwards, so that the property's always, you know, changing and, you know, developing for the future guests. And so I think that's, you know, a very important aspect to how I look at it up here.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to?
For Rose Island, we use a direct booking system as well. We do not use the Airbnb or VRBO. People are allowed to book directly through a functional system that is known as Little Hotelier. It's a booking system that works pretty seamlessly with our website. So word of mouth and website is how we do it. We chose not to do VRBO and Airbnb because of the complexity of things, and we seem to be doing fine as far as our bookings go. This summer, post-pandemic, we're like crazy with people booking. Of course, we do a one-night minimum, which is probably a lot of work compared to some. I kind of took away from this for myself that I tend to like the two-night minimum or even the week, because if you come to a lighthouse, you stay one night, you really can't get the experience. So that's at least where we come from.
Mm-hmm. Somebody, Diane asked, what is the average summer and winter temperature at the Little Island Lighthouse in Norway? And Elena, I think Elena's still here. You still here, Elena? Or maybe not. It's late.
You had mentioned that the coldest it gets usually is around -5 Celsius.
Which is about 23 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's not bad considering it's within the Arctic Circle. She was telling me when I interviewed her for the podcast that because of the Gulf Stream, it's not as cold as you might think it is there. It can get chilly, but
it can be really much more colder than that, but it goes up quite quick again because the Gulf Stream is like heating.
Yeah. Of course, another consideration for you, Erik, and even more so for her, is the short amount of daylight you get in the winter. I mean, for her, I think it's actually pretty much like a few weeks of total darkness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's open. Her place is open all through that. And she says people really enjoy it. They enjoy the quiet and the solitude, and it's almost a selling point in a way, I think.
It has its very few advantages, of course.
Erik, how long does it take? Sorry.
We were really well booked for Christmas tables, during Christmas, because it's emphasizing even more you getting away from the city, because it was very stargazing but it's very short days in the winter.
Yeah.
I had a question for Erik. So if I were renting at your property, where would I go and to depart, and how long does it take to get to your island, and is there minimum stays there, minimum duration?
No, it's not minimum duration, but you fly to Sweden, to Gothenburg, the second city of And we could pick you up with a helicopter if you got if you want to pay for that. And then it will take 25 minutes. Then you will be on the island, or you take a taxi or rent a car and go to the village of Marstrand, a really beautiful village. And that's like how far the car will take you, and then you park it there, and that will take you 1 hour, a little bit more than an hour, and then we'll come and pick you up with a boat. And if it's nice weather, maximum conditions, we can go fast. It will take you 20 minutes. If it's a bit more windy, it will take a bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice kind of ride in between the rocks, and you will see a lot of seals and wildlife.
From the pictures, it looks like you're just hours away from everything, but I guess you are not that far away from the land.
Yeah, well, it's 6 nautical miles, so it's not that far. But if it's very hard winds, then it feels really long.
Erik, you must be able to see the northern lights at times from.
Yeah, not very often, but sometimes it's a bit too much south.
I know at the little island in Norway, I guess it's pretty frequent from there. Of course, it's way up there.
Yeah.
So let's see. Somebody asked in the chat. Frank asks Jimmy and Carol, why is West Point Lighthouse black and white?
It wasn't black and white at first, I believe.
No, for a couple of years, it was red and white.
It was red and white, and it didn't. The red seemed to fade. The paint faded, and so they put it black instead of red, and they only put the black stripes on the 3 sides that face the sea.
Mm-hmm.
The inland side is still all white.
We're also on about 3 to 4 kilometers of sandy beachfront, and in Prince Edward Island, we're famous for our potatoes, but we're famous for our red soil. So our beaches tend to be red, and the red stripes didn't stand out as much as the black did. So it was only red and white for a couple of years, and the first time they had to paint it, they painted it black and white.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and most lighthouses in Canada, of course, are a combination of white and red. So yours is definitely unusual. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat right now. If anybody asked a question earlier in the chat, please re-ask it. Actually,
I had a comment on the painting of the lighthouse there, because we, at least in Europe, they want to keep even in daytime like a visual variation between different lighthouses, so you could actually use it as navigation if you're approaching this shore, and you can also see.
Mm-hmm.
So if here in Sweden you have, for example, a few models that are the same, but they are painted in different, very graphical patterns, so you visually can kind of distinguish them from each other.
Paternoster is really striking, that red tower. We have some kind of similar skeletal type lighthouses here in the US, but they're generally, a lot of them are painted brown, which is pretty drab. So I love that fire engine red that Paternoster is painted.
And I found it interesting on Erik's lighthouse and the interior. I mean, so much thought's put into what people are seeing, what the experience is going to be on the inside. I mean, the painting of the people in the water is just beautiful. And it's funny because the projects that I've been involved with here in the United States, it's, budget's always a consideration. So, we're trying to beg, borrow, and steal things and just trying to get it looking right without actually having too much thought put into. I mean, the dream, of course, would be to do exactly what Erik did, but it's interesting how a lot of properties, I think here, once you get the place restored and habitable, then you just try to do your best to make it as comfortable as possible. But I think your lighthouse, Erik, has definitely set the bar very high.
When we took over the lease, the interiors were terrible. It was like very white. It looked like an office inside. We really need to. The budget was not high at all, but we half of the furniture we bought on secondhand markets in the vicinity to kind of get that DNA of the area, and we mixed it with some new and a lot of secondhand curious art and pictures and quirky frames. But that's my trade. I mean, I'm a hotel designer. I've been that for 30 years. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have that creativity to be able to see what's going to work and what's not going to work, and that's a definite benefit when you're furnishing and setting up a vacation rental for sure.
Yeah. Well, I was struck looking at all these presentations at how good everybody is at making these places inviting and beautiful. As so many of you in your organizations are just really, really good at that sort of thing. Nick, certainly. I mean, I could name all of them. They're all just beautiful to look at. So we've seen not only a lot of beautiful lighthouse pictures today, but a lot of beautiful interiors as well.
Yeah, I think people go do their best in the United States, especially to give that vintage look. And I mean, Heceta Head and East Brother and all these lighthouses, they really try to go for the period feel. And I'm just completely fascinated with Nick's lighthouse. I'm sorry if I keep mentioning it, but we have some amazing properties here in the United States as well. And they all deserve credit. Whether they get them brand new or get them secondhand, they're doing a great job.
For sure. A couple more questions came up in the chat. Somebody asked, does anyone have a storm club to offer? Storm club. I'm not sure what that means exactly. I thought I was reading it at first, a storm story. Go ahead, Erik.
It's Media, our my colleague. She's the
oh, okay, yeah,
on our island. And storm watching. We heard that some lighthouses is you can put your name on a list, and you get a phone call before a storm is coming, and then you quickly have to go out there, and then you ride out the storm in the lighthouse. Do anybody of you have you any of you?
I've never heard of that exactly, but certainly being in some of these places in a storm would be quite an experience. Yeah. Any particular storm stories people want to tell at these properties? It looks like Desiree might have a yes to that. Did you have Desiree?
Well, we get storms up to 55-mile-an-hour winds out here, and chunks of the fence will just get blown down and off. Heavy teak furniture, Adirondack chairs will be across the island. It's amazing what the weather can do. There were a couple of questions for me too. Do you want me to just answer those?
Yeah, did you see that question about the water supply? You want to?
I did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Frank asked if we're catching enough water during the drought. No, we never catch enough water. We have the capability of holding about 50,000 gallons on the island. Right now, we only have a little bit less than 20,000. That's how much rain we were able to catch this season. Not a whole lot, but and a lot of people keep asking also, why don't we go solar? For our power needs, there's not enough space to put enough panels and reserve batteries. Also, we have to factor in that, while we mostly have sun, we don't always, and we get a lot of fog, and then there are fires and there are rains. And all of that would still cost a lot of money. So it all kind of comes back down to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I see the comments went back and forth there between Korla and Misty about an experience at Heceta Head. That's interesting. I don't know if Misty, if you want to say anything about that. The hot water pipe burst in 2020.
Yeah, we had the pleasure of discovering a waterfall of hot water coming from the floor of the second floor into the east parlor and completely flooded it and ran into the heater ducts and flooded the basement. And Korla was the guest who discovered that and alerted our caretaker who lives on site, and of course phone calls to everyone. And we had to, all night long clean it up. And then the breakfast staff still had to pull off a 7-course breakfast with no water. And we served all the guests. And we're used to that, actually. Speaking of storms, we often will lose water, we'll lose power, trees will fall down, the roads get blocked, so staff can't come from from the south, so they have to come from the north. So it's very common in the winter with our big wind storms and our big trees out there to have to make do. So we are always ready with extra water in jugs and candles and lanterns, and we know how to, we can do 6 of the courses with no power and no water. So if you come during the winter, you're still going to get a great experience. We call it the authentic experience.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody would agree that with these places, I'm sure there's always something, but probably always more than one thing to emergency to deal with at one time. So we've been on for over 2 hours here. We should probably wind it down. So this is kind of a last call for any questions that people would like to ask, and that includes all the panelists. If you want to ask each other questions, if you want to do that, or forever hold your peace. But I do want to do this again, maybe with some of, well, I'd like to have all of you back again, but we can also do it with some other, there's so many beautiful properties, lighthouses where you can stay overnight. So I hope this is part 1 of many, I hope.
Jeremy did his best to reach out to a lot of different organizations, and I'm really happy with the selection he was able to get for this one, but there's a lot more out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, there are all over the world.
It was a pleasure being here. It's fun to kind of meet my soulmates that are running.
Yeah, you are. You're like a very special club here. You're definitely soulmates. So I want to thank everybody who's attended today very much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. So, and I want to thank our guests, our panelists, Nick Korstad, Brian Tefft, Gigi Lirot, Jen Lewis, Misty Anderson, Elena Hansteensen, Desiree Heveroh, Chad Kaiser, Erik, Nissen, Johansen, Jimmy Stewart, Carol Livingstone, and of course, Jeff Gales. If I left any names out there, I think I got everybody, but I apologize if I left any names out. So you all did great. You all get an A+ for your presentations today. It was a lot of fun, and I'm relieved because we never did anything like this before, and it took some preparation, but it was certainly worth it. I think this was a lot of fun, I hope, for everybody.
Yeah.
So did you want to say anything else?
No, just thank you for putting it together. We had over 150 people sign up and actually participate, so that's a good number for us.
Yeah, actually we had over 200 sign up. I think we had about 150 in the room at one time, so that was
a lot of double head I see also in the pictures.
Yeah, so it was a lot of participation, and we really appreciate it from all of you. So everybody take care. Happy spring. We'll be seeing you again soon. I don't think we have anything scheduled until June 6th. We'll have a Zoom event that'll celebrate the 250th anniversary of Portsmouth Harbor Lighthouse. That's on a Sunday, June 6th, at the same 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then on June 13th, there's going to be another tour retrospective program with Skip Sherwood talking about a tour to Texas. Not a huge amount of lighthouses there, but some interesting other culture along with the lighthouses. So that'll be June 13th. So watch for the announcements on those. Again, thank you all so much, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Take care.